Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise as we continue to take this series to the finish line. We made the unthinkable addition last episode, adding Darryl Ingram, the draft rival of Hank Holder, who spent the first 6 years of his career in Cincinnati, won an MVP and became one of the best players in baseball. And now these two have teamed up. It led to us going to our fourth consecutive World Series, but ultimately we lost in 5 games to the New York Yankees. We've finally been toppled and now try to make another run at it. I've been going through these seasons kind of one at a time. I want to go through multiple today, okay? Probably going to play less regular season and probably less postseason overall, focused mainly on managing this roster, and there are some interesting things I have in mind today. The roster continues to get older, and eventually it's time to move off of certain players. So as we look at our free agents, I am actually not going to be extending many offers right now. I've only sent them out to Victor Mederos and Noble Meyer. I see a lot of aging players that will continue to regress, and it's time to start getting that next generation of the team ready. Logan O'Hoppy's been awesome since the trade back in 2030, but I do think it's time to now make room for a new starting catcher who I want to be Paul Byrne. I traded for him as one of the best prospects in baseball, and now it's time for him to get his chance. I'm also willing to move off of the defending Cy Young Award winner Spencer Schwellenbach. He's hit that 10-year cliff that we know leads to a lot of regression here in the show. And we also know that he had a bad postseason. He had 3 starts. They did not go well. And I have to think about where his game is going to be next October. Not when this season begins when he's in 84. I got to think about where these players' trajectories are. And I'm even willing to move off of Evan Carter, an absolute legend here in the series. One of my favorite players of the entire Marlins franchise. Us getting to that next level and being a contender wouldn't have been possible without him. With that being said, I do think that the writing is kind of on the wall with him going from a 90 to an 85 last year. I feel like when players get injured, that regression cranks up way more, and he missed a couple months, and he's down 5 overall. I'm sure he'll continue to fall, and my thought is that we can replace him with Edgar Batista, and there's a pretty good chance that by, let's say, October, Batista has a higher overall than Evan Carter. There is currently an 8-point gap. There won't be before too long. In the case of Joe Brown, I am looking for a first base upgrade if possible. He's been a solid player, but I think it's time to move on and see where his next chapter ends up taking him. And I have no issue moving on from various players. I have a pretty good plan in place, I think. And when I look at our starting pitcher situation, the pipeline has been... I think we're in an awesome spot. We don't have to chase veterans or keep signing the same players all the time. I do want to bring back Noble Meyer, who only has 6 years of experience. But take a look at our prospects. Romeo Stevenson, who played last year. Brooks Matsui, Mustafa Jones, Mackenzie McDermott, Israel Cordova. Why would we bother clogging the way for prospects of this magnitude? There are only a few players whose contracts I'm not going to tender for next season, including William Lyon and Cole Carrig. I've made my arbitration offers, I've added a few new players to the 40-man roster, and let's see what's out there now in free agency. I'm interested in looking into first baseman. We don't have a great prospect in the organization there. We got Jack Caglione available, and then Joe Brown's the next best. I had to at least put David Rivera on the board, and he is very interested in Miami. I am willing to let Schwellenbach go, especially if we instead add a 28-year-old who's coming off a couple really good seasons. Didn't fare well against us in the postseason, but if he signs here, wouldn't have to worry about our lineup again. A decision has been made. We have made a signing, it appears. And the Marlins bring in first baseman Jack Caglione to replace Joe Brown. He's a great lefty bat with big-time power, a good glove, and 2 years ago, he was an MVP caliber player. He wasn't a year ago, but I think that player's in there somewhere. Actually, he wasn't just MVP caliber, he did win it. It was easily the best season of his career. And it appears David Rivera has now made his decision. I gave him a nice offer, and he says, that sounds pretty good to me. And we have added the Nationals ace in David Rivera. A 5-year deal, one less year than he wanted, but $36 million a season. That is how we replace Spencer Schwellenbach. And we're still going to have some room to play some of the younger arms that I'm excited about. Oh, as it turns out, Logan O'Hoppe has little interest in coming back. We have been declined by Kyle Teal, who gets an extra year on his contract to go to the Giants. We have finally brought back Victor Medeiros after a successful season with us a year ago. Evan Carter is leaving, but won't be going too far. He'll stay in the division, signing with the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll see if I chose to move on at the right time or not. And now the Mets are interested in Joe Brown. Spencer Jones leaves the Yankees after mashing against us, helping win the World Series with them. He goes to the Red Sox. Oh, the Rays are still interested in Noble Meyer. That means he hasn't taken my offer yet. But his motivation interest is a very low 20%, so we might have to move on from him too. We have another signing. The Marlins have brought back George Soriano after a year away. He wanted to leave, and now he comes back. And we've also signed a backup catcher in veteran Caleb Lomavita. It's the Rule 5 draft, and I don't see anybody from our team getting taken. The Astros just took a player in the 3rd round. I thought I was the only maniac who did that. Noble Meyer's close to a deal. He's going to sign somewhere. I gave him a lowball offer because I wanted to see the presentation. I know he's not going to sign back with us. So just tell us who you did sign with, Noble. He is going to the Nationals, as we'll swap starting pitchers. They gave him 5 years. And look at who's staying in the division. It's Joe Brown. He's now with the Atlanta Braves. Signed to just a 1-year contract. We'll see if Joe can have himself a great year. Glenn Bryan to the White Sox. This team is for real. You know, they've built the best farm system in baseball. We've aided their efforts, trading them some really good prospects over the years. Certainly they did most of the work. And now they're making signings like that and show that they're serious about competing. So we're going to get to our arbitration hearings now. We won the one for Kenny Norris. We lose for Angel Martinez. Okay, he just inexplicably gets a $4 million raise. Interesting. Jorge Vizcaíno will make $7.5 million. Jorge Calero, 5.2 after last year. We should have won the hearing. I mean, Brian Ariano, he's underpaid for how good of a reliever he is. Tamar Johnson's going to make $8.62 million. And so we're going to go into the year. It says $54 million available. Oftentimes that revenue ends up correcting to like $387 or $390. So I kind of like having this cushion. And plus, I didn't feel like I had to spend all the money knowing some of the young talent that's going to get their chance. And here's how everything comes together for this new year. You've got Jorge Vizcaíno, David Rivera at the top of our rotation, the veteran Kyle Harrison in the last year of his contract. Then you've got the young pitchers in Brooks Matsui, Romeo Stevenson. We go young at catcher with Paul Byrne, and now in center, Edgar Batista. After all this time, drafted way back when, year 3. When he was selected, he was only a 51 overall, and only because of this style of video and how I've gone about ending this series does he end up having at least a small piece of the experience. And yeah, our revenue adjusted, so I gave us a $12 million cushion, very similar to a year ago. Pretty happy with that overall management. I mean, we had to kind of go young at those spots if I was going to pay Rivera. and then go get a guy like Jack Cag. Paul Byrne had 7 homers in spring training, wasn't very efficient, but did show that big-time power. Jack Caglione had 6 homers, Darrell Ingram 6, and a pretty promising showing from Edgar Batista. It's his time. Entering the bullpen this year is going to be Juan Villa, who was one of the closer prospects I took many years ago in the series back in 2030. He's got some really good ratings, especially for a 75 who has A potential, so a lot of upside. His time is now. And I'm happy to see like him, Parsons, Ariano, Carrera help balance out the average age of this bullpen. I think our average age is under 30 years old. That feels like an achievement here to have a good one without just spending on veterans every year. And then we got Matsui and Stevenson here in the rotation. AAA is going to have a lot of players who have upside and will push for spots. So if we have an injury or have to move on from Harrison, his deal's up soon, I feel more prepared than ever. So we've introduced some more youth to this roster than our previous 4 World Series runs. I think it's a pretty significant change when you look at the 2 young guys in the rotation. You got 2 new starters in Batista and Byrne who are, big-time prospects. What's the story at 2035? Jack Caglione and Hank Holder get opening day home runs, supporting a Jorge Vizcaíno victory, his first opening day start. David Rivera makes the second start, and he goes 6 innings, giving up just 1. Holder goes yard again, along with Gary Brady, in a 10-2 victory. We got a 1-0 gem here from Brooks Matsui, 10th game of the season. And he just shut down the Atlanta Braves, 8 innings, 3 hits, no runs allowed. In the first series against the Braves, Joe Brown did not have an extra base hit. Our old pitcher Max Meyer is now with the Nationals, as Stevenson just had himself a pretty good gem. We just took a series from the Philadelphia Phillies, moving to 14-8. Evan Carter failed to do any big damage against us in this series. We just went on an 11-game winning streak in May, pushing our record to 35-15. Darrell Ingram is crushing it with 15 homers this season after just 24 a season ago. He's back to his MVP ways. But Gary Brady, he's hitting .333, red hot. Jack Caglione's playing at a high level, as is Doug Butcher. With Hank Holder, we are seeing some more regression. He's down to a 94. His contact's untouched, but everything else is going down. Feels a little excessive. He's only 26 years old, 8 years experience. Still having a good year, but you can see the decline setting in. Paul Byrne's transition into a starter is not off to the smoothest of starts, but it may take some time. Termarr Johnson, he's looking more like an offensive liability this season. He had that really big breakout with us, but that seems to have been an outlier year that he is not close to duplicating. And Edgar Batista looks like he might have been replaced after a minor injury. He's only played in 14 games. Eddie has no homers. He's only slugging .261. He needs to get the bat going. Our old pal Vladimir Ortiz is now pitching with the Angels.
Count's full.
Let's see if we can make a play here. We've worked the count full against Vladimir Ortiz in a 3-0 game. And that's a walk. We'll take it. Paul Byrne, the catcher, is next. He's got the bases loaded. Byrne on the ground, and they'll get the out at second. He's doubled up. Gonna take a little time for these moves to be a success. Just wanted to take a swing here with Hank Holder, if you don't mind. That one's out of reach. Hank Holder. How about a little 7th inning triple? And we're going to fail to bring him home and continue to be scoreless. I failed to remember to give a Johnny Grieve update last episode. Well, Johnny is still with the LA Angels. He's hitting .373 on this season. Angels might be a middling team right now, but Johnny's giving him everything he can. He hit .275 a year ago. His numbers were pretty stable from his first season in LA, and it seems that he's now having that big 31-year-old breakout. Maybe he's figured it all out once again. They did get him on a very good contract. I think that's a pretty reasonable one, although the final year or two might be a little bit much. But Johnny Greaves having a very successful career. He already has one homer in this game. Juan Villa on the mound here for the Marlins. Johnny, swing and a miss. Shane Baz down below moves to 8-0 with the Diamondbacks. I feel like there's somebody with some sort of ties to this series on every team in this franchise. As we retire Johnny Greave, knock that average down a couple points. No way Cole Carrigs with the Yankees and just went yard. Aubrey Fenner went yard in the same game. Like, I just see the ticker and it's all guys who have played for us. Flip to right by Darryl Ingram. That one is a lazy duck. Well, a great day for Vladimir Ortiz and Johnny Greave as the Angels take it to us 9-2. Edgar Batista has a 2-home run game. I knew it would happen eventually. Ingram hit 2 at the same time. Butcher went yard and a Romeo Stevenson gem. Darryl Ingram then has a multi-homer day the very next game. Well, I guess we'll be seeing him in the Derby. 22-7? And we only hit 3 homers? We had 22 hits, 5 walks, 2 players had 7 RBIs. That's going to wreck some ERAs for San Francisco. Wow. We've reached the home run derby and the All-Star break. We're heading to Atlanta. And Darryl Ingram already has 30 home runs. I haven't been great in the derby, but I do have some reps under my belt now. Darryl Ingram will try to take one home for the Miami Marlins. 301 now in his career. Always takes a second to adjust to these slow, like rookie speed pitches. There we go. That's one in the waterfall. And a line shot now, left center. We got to pick up the pace. All right, a streak now. This is going to be 3 in a row, 433. I don't know. That's a line shot to center. Okay, that one is up and over. This one might go a little bit further. We've got 468. If that one goes, which it does, it's 6 in a row. 30 seconds left. Now we pull one out to left field. There's one for y'all. We're in bonus time, but look at the energy. I've been doing power swings, and he is out of juice. I'm not sure we're going to add on to a dozen. Can't even remember if that's a good score. There's one more for good measure. All right, perfect swing. Oppo, 14 ought to get us to the next round. It does. All right, we got past Emilio De Jesus, and we'll have one more try. Gonna need a more efficient round, though. Get off to a stronger start. I guess mix in some regular swings because the power just drains fast. I should let some of these go too. Need ones like this to go, and it doesn't. Oh, we're golfing this one. 6 at this point doesn't feel like it's going to be a very good score. But if we can get on a roll, especially in the bonus time, I suppose anything's possible. And we're going to be out of time with this one, making it 4 straight. Come on. That one is short. Does this one have it? 425. We need that. Oh, come on. Only 10. Yeah, I don't like our chances in that case. And he's out. All right, we won a round this year. I guess that's some progress. I guess the PA announcer calls him Michael Mikey. That's a great name. And he is the Derby champ, representing the Yankees. Jorge Vizcaíno has made it to the All-Star game as a 93 overall. We are also going to see a couple former Marlins in, Shane Baz, Mason Miller, who is now with the Cardinals, and surprisingly no other relievers or other pitchers from our team. Doug Butcher makes it to another All-Star game, as does Gary Brady, Darrell Ingram, Hank Holder, not a starter, and he ends up missing out this season. Ellie De La Cruz beat him out. Aubrey Fenner is now a two-time Pro Bowler. All-Star. You get it. Wow. As a matter of fact, Robbie Parsons has had a huge fall this season. Negative WAR player in July. His FIP has more than doubled. His home run rate has more than doubled. His strikeouts are significantly down. There's really no point in him being our closer in that case. 35 saves, 6 blown. He's just not been good enough. Maybe we hand that off to Ariano now. We've seen regression now from Kyle Harrison when it felt like it would never happen. He was so good for so long. Romeo Stevenson is now the same overall, but continuing to struggle a bit. His season's not been as good as a year ago. Brooks Matsui, meanwhile, already has 10 victories, and his numbers are in a much better spot. So I guess you'll take that. We're going to stand pat this year. I think our team's in a really good spot, and I want to see us go on another run. Already 74 victories. White Sox, though, loading up on talent. They just traded away a couple prospects to get Dante Hahn. They're serious. Here was our draft class, by the way. We did a better job this season. We actually got an A potential closer, Marco Cortez, already a 64. We'll add a 75 potential shortstop. Not a huge ceiling there. But then we get a B potential catcher. It'll just take him 12 years to develop to the majors, starting as a 48. Walker Jenkins suffers an injury after the All-Star break. His shoulder will keep him out 1 to 2 months. This season, our 100th victory takes place on September 8th. And with 114 wins, we have taken this division again. And we're the 1 seed in the National League. The 1 seed in the American League, meanwhile, are the Chicago White Sox. Darrell Ingram led the team with 45 home runs and is back to being a 99 overall. Hank Holder, meanwhile, has seen more regression, especially with that power against lefties. He's only a 92. His numbers were very close to what they were a year ago, though. Caglione hit 273 with 23 homers. Feels like this was a successful move for us. Doug Butcher, see his overall has fallen, and his slugging is down a little bit, but still a really strong year for him. Walker Jenkins, an MVP a year ago, not quite on that same trajectory this year. Termarr Johnson, definitely a disappointing year, and maybe not our long-term second baseman going forward. Andreas Ruiz played a lot, as did Edgar Batista, and Ruiz hasn't really developed into the highest level hitter. Batista, meanwhile, up to an 81 overall, slugged 383. He's not fully developed yet whatsoever, but he's getting there. Paul Byrne played over 100 games at catcher, and he too is very much a work in progress. Jorge Vizcaíno and David Rivera each won 18 games this year, but the big breakout belonged to Brooks Matsui. I thought it might be Stevenson, but I gave 2 young players a chance, and Matsui has run with it, putting him in Rookie of the Year conversations. Benny Piazza had a down season. Didn't pitch that much of the majors, though. Robbie Parsons did end up recovering, but I think still we roll with Ariano as the closer. Ariano now an 88 overall, and he saved 19 games. The blown save numbers you can't really look at because as a setup man, he was given chances to blow saves, but not really chances to actually save games, so it's not quite fair to compare. And then Juan Villa looks like he was electric this season. He is the next young, great reliever for us at 79 overall. We got to take a look at some other players, though. Evan Carter, 81 overall, same as Edgar Batista. And he had a great season. Played at a very high level once again. He's on a multi-year contract there in Philly. And at least this season's an extremely high level one. Joe Brown is now an 81 overall, hit 23 homers. And really, I don't think he changed. He just had another Joe Brown caliber year, which is a good starting first baseman. Spencer Schwellenbach signed on with Toronto. And this year, he managed to stave off too much regression and did not play much differently than his Cy Young winning season. His WAR was better, his walk rate was better, his strikeout rate was better. Ultimately, the MVP belongs to Darryl Ingram this year. He's now a two-time MVP. And the Cy Young Award goes to Waylon Fiorentino, but Vizcaíno and Rivera, man, they were second and third. That's incredible. Batting title belongs to Gary Brady. He hit 372 this year, 459 on base. So again, we end up matching with the Cincinnati Reds in the NLDS, and we are on the brink of elimination after 2 games. Look at all those home runs they hit, 4 of them. Jorge Vizcaíno gave up 6 runs, left after 2 frames. The next game, we only get 5 from David Rivera, giving up 4 runs. Ariano takes the L. And we have now been swept. Our 4-season run of going to the World Series ends. We don't even win a playoff game this year. I chose to, maybe not field the best team for winning a World Series here right now, but a team instead that would keep our window wide for years to come. And our season is over. And the Cincinnati Reds have gone all the way, winning a World Series without Darryl Ingram. They beat the Athletics. And the Reds have done it after all. This feels like the Nationals winning without Bryce Harper. Let's take a look. Carson Williams at shortstop was their top-rated player. First year in town, so that was a huge move for them. Patrick Kramer, I saw, came over. And we know we've seen Kramer before. He's a stud. So they made a couple really big signings. Trying to see if anybody else stands out. Soderstrom. He panned out. See, I tried here. And, 55 games was enough for me to say, nope, not going to work. Then he surfaces later with Atlanta. Plays at a decent level. And now even better with the Reds. That's amazing. World Series and playoff MVP Tyler Soderstrom. They ended our year. They go all the way. And now it's 2 consecutive years where we don't win the World Series. And now we're seeing kind of the fall of this Marlins empire to an extent. The regular season success is still speaking for itself with 114 victories. But that's another season in the books. Jose Ramirez has now made it to the Hall of Fame. And here is the new list of free agent players. A few I'm definitely going to let test. Walker Jenkins is here, 2 years, or a 1 year removed from winning the MVP, but now he's at that dangerous place to sign where he has 9 years experience. He's 31 years old. I certainly am not giving him a 7-year deal. Robbie Parsons is also available, and more veterans and series mainstays. I think it's pretty relevant here that Hank Holder at 92 overall has now fallen into a fourth place tie for highest rated player on the team. Kind of staggering that there are two position players ahead of him. Darryl Ingram plus 30-year-old Gary Brady, who is now nearing that 10-year cliff, and we're still paying him for 4 more seasons. Meanwhile, Hank Holder, going into this next year, is entering the final year of his contract. And of course, I'm going to want to keep him around, but it's a tricky spot to sign a player, not going to lie. So as we move on to another offseason, we have another bunch of decisions to make. Some mainstays are hitting free agency. We're going to let Kyle Harrison go, now at 80 overall, age 34. I think we have the pitchers to keep replacing and get this rotation younger, which allows us the flexibility to maybe keep a guy like Walker Jenkins around a bit longer. With Batista and Ruiz, we have some outfielders, but none quite on his level. Maybe there's somebody out there in free agency, you never know. Robbie Parsons is someone I'd like to keep around. And PJ Morlando, one of our longtime role players, may end up walking. He had a pretty solid run for us in this series, going all the way back to 2028. And the shocking thing here is he has hit exactly 3 home runs in all but 1 season of his career. Shockingly consistent. And I think, for a bench player who hits 256, on base of 344, yeah, the slugging's a little bit low, but that offense with the position flexibility of his really made him just a nice player to have for the entire series. And as I think about future franchises, his entire skill set and archetype is something I'd like to replicate because he covers so much there as one bench player. So I'm only offering Walker Jenkins a 2-year deal worth $50 million, while Robbie Parsons gets a 2-year deal worth $25 million. Before the deadline, I increased the offers on Jenkins and Parsons, and they're still going to test free agency. I'm really curious how much Jorge Vizcaíno makes in arbitration this year because his 1-year demand is $21 million, and he's developing into one of the better pitchers in baseball, so I think he's going to see a huge increase into next season. Doug Butcher is about to enter his final year of arbitration, unless we can convince him to stick around a little bit longer. How about 4 years, $80 million, taking him to age 32. The only eligible player I'm not giving an arbitration offer to is Termarr Johnson. He's coming off a down year, entering the final year of team control, and I think that the $8.6 million might be better spent elsewhere on this team, and at least for now, I'm not making any offer. I'm actually considering giving R.D. Castle the chance to compete for the starting second base job. I just get a little nervous. It's a small sample size, but I've seen guys with good ratings not ever produce with us. Think like Aubrey Fenner. So I might get some competition, but Castle should, in theory, be able to step in. And Walker Jenkins is headed to the Toronto Blue Jays. I couldn't get him to agree to a smaller, term offer. I wanted to go just for a handful of years. They signed him to a 6-year deal, $20.7 million. Doesn't feel like that bad of a price, as long as you can get a couple more of these caliber of seasons out of him. That's not bad. But I wasn't going to go that far, and I know that I'm trying to build around Darryl Ingram and Hank Holder still long term, and I'll be looking for now another starting outfielder. Looks like we have a deal done as George Soriano at age 36 will return. Our second signing is made, and we're going to add to our bullpen with Prince Tashner. I remember seeing him either as a prospect or someone that we had faced, but he's a high-end reliever, and I tend to go after some of those better relief pitchers that are in free agency. 31 years old, drafted way back in year 1. So that's probably why his name is familiar. He has a lot of closing experience in Detroit and continues to bolster the back end of our bullpen. And we're 3 for 3 on contracts, as we will also have the return of Robbie Parsons. The bullpen is ready to go. A lot of players getting selected here in the Rule 5 draft. Not used to seeing teams actually take multiple players at times. The surprising thing is we never seem to lose anybody here. Staying perfect on signings, now we go outside the bullpen and add an outfielder in Charlie Condon. This is our short-term replacement for the loss of Walker Jenkins. So we're going to play Ingram in right instead of left. We'll play Ruiz, Batista, and Condon then. Obviously, we'll have a little bit of platooning to do there between Ruiz and Batista most likely. But Charlie Condon gives us that proven bat to maintain the level of offense that we are accustomed to. I was considering giving an offer to Bobby Witt Jr., but he can only play shortstop. It'd be awesome to have him at second base for a season. Now or never on PJ Morlando. And he is moving on to the Detroit Tigers on a one-year contract. Termarr Johnson has signed a deal with the Chicago Cubs. I had thought about bringing him back for one more season, but he didn't like my offer. Took basically the same one to go to Chicago. Somebody else we have in the organization here is Theodore Roberts at second base. This might end up being his big chance then, drafted in 2032. So he was part of my final draft class, and he was a 62 overall when I drafted him. Now he's got a chance to take on a big role with the team, and so does another player from that same draft class. I haven't really been going after more starting pitching. I'm happy with Vizcaino, Rivera, and then Matsui just had that massive season. So I think we roll with those three, keep Stevenson, and yeah, we've got Mackenzie McDermott and Israel Cordova. Cordova, in that last draft class, 99 potential. Roberts has 98. So even a few years past, where I was doing the series regularly, we still have a nucleus that should keep this team great for years to come. I wanted to do a bit more in this series to not see it crumble so fast. Whoa, Brian Ariano just had a huge arbitration win. The relievers don't seem to get a huge spike. At least it didn't seem that way earlier, so he ends up with like a $10 million raise. And Jorge Vizcaino, he ends up getting a $21.9 million salary for this season. We do win the hearing for Andreas Ruiz. Tends to be easier on players who don't play a lot or underperform. Typically, relievers are easy to, not raise the salary a ton on, but the elite relievers are an exception. And Doug Butcher did take my contract offer earlier, so he signed through the first 3 years he's eligible for free agency, and he's become one of the better players on this team. He's actually been better than I expected, as I assumed his overall in the 83-84 range would keep him from becoming a 5 consecutive time All-Star. I wanted to show you this too. So Emilio De Jesus with the Rockies is one of the best players in the series. 24 years old, 99 overall, and his arbitration salary this year, $38.2 million. He becomes available next season if the Rockies can't sign him, coming off a 50 home run year. Here are Aubrey Fenner's numbers, by the way, 2 seasons into his career at Colorado, and he's established himself as an elite offensive second baseman. If last year is any indication, those are really good numbers that I never thought would happen had he stuck around here. So we got knocked out in the first round of the postseason last year, and our projected revenue this season is lower than it's been in years. When you're going to the World Series, you're typically getting like a $370 million budget, and now our revenue is only $334. So I've again continued to manage this pretty well. I thought I was playing it really safe, but turns out I kind of have just the perfect amount of cushion as I transition this roster into the next generation with 3 young pitchers, Theodore Roberts, Edgar Batista, and Brady Forbes. I'm kind of impressed that set up so perfectly. I thought we'd have more room available, but I still wanted to keep the team younger. So Mackenzie McDermott's going to get the edge right now over Israel Cordova, who can work on the home run per 9 numbers for one more season at AAA. And if there is any kind of an injury, he's of course the next man up. The bullpen is still nasty here with Tashner, Parsons, and Arellano, plus Juan Villa, Miguel Carrera. This is just a filthy pen. Vizcaíno and Rivera continue to anchor the starting rotation. And now we have a little bit of change with the bench, as we're going to see Brady Forbes become the backup catcher. I traded for him at one point. He's got some pop, a good arm. Thought he was kind of a Shea Langoliers type of catcher. And we also have R.D. Castle now on the bench. He's an infielder that plays all the positions there. It's hard to find these guys that can play first base. So covering that is always nice. Then Andreas Ruiz gives us full outfield coverage. And Byron Hollander has now made the roster at 27 years old. A first baseman who projects as more of a DH. But that offense coming off the bench when we don't need a specific position covered here is what I wanted for this year. So the ability for us to sustain success into the future relies partially on Ingram and Holder holding on to those skills for as long as possible, but also the development of Byrne, Roberts, Batista. Let's see how this season unfolds. The White Sox just offered us a trade on the 3rd day of the year. They're offering us back Nelson Iden. Yeah, he didn't pan out. We want to trade him back. That ain't happening. Brady Forbes breaks his ankle in the first week of the season. He'll miss 1 to 2 months. He's our backup catcher. In a shocking move, we are going to sign the veteran Cal Raleigh, who has not played in 4 years, but is coming out of retirement to join our bench. Romeo Stevenson pitching a gem here. I see Batista with the home run as we've opened this season 8-1. Serious wrist injury for Juan Villa. He's going to miss 1 to 2 months. Mackenzie McDermott just had his first big league gem, going 8 innings of shutout ball against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we're 14-6. Second half of the month kind of went rough for us, but a 19-12 record is a pretty good spot to be, although the Nationals are 21-10. So checking on some of these moves early on, Theodore Roberts getting some development already, and he is holding his own offensively. Paul Byrne, meanwhile, that average is climbing way up this season, on base far more frequently. Edgar Batista's hitting .269. He has 7 home runs. It feels like that next step, maybe a couple steps, are being taken. And then Charlie Condon joining the team and absolutely picking up where Walker Jenkins left off. I don't see anybody in the starting lineup that is struggling. I mean, the home runs seem to be down. And now we have seen Hank Holder and his overall fall into the 80s for the first time in ages. Yeah, when you go through like the long-term ending of a series like this, you see that there needs to be some overhauling to progression and regression. I think minor league development needs a lot of changes, because like a 27-year-old shortstop already regressing doesn't feel very good. You know, I worry that Hank Holder only has a few more years of really being a good starter. The rotation looks really good. Stevenson is already taking a leap. Matsui's even better than he was a year ago. And Mackenzie McDermott. What I'm looking for here out of a 5-starter, if you can be a 4.5 ERA, 1.5 whip guy, you know, you're getting by. And he's a little bit better than that with solid advanced numbers too. Arellano continues to be the closer. I feel that Parsons lost that job last year, and if he continues to regress, which is the case, he has not been good this season at all. That's now Brian Arellano's role. Surprisingly, 5 saves, 3 blown. Gary Brady tears his calf in April. He's set to miss 1 to 2 months. Depth in certain areas isn't as strong as it once was, and we're going to be calling up Aaron Jackson then to help pick up the slack in the meantime. He hasn't played at the majors in years. Thank you, Cal Raleigh, for the 14 at-bats. He had a couple doubles, drew a couple walks. I don't know how he stole 2 bases at age 39, but thank you. Gary Brady just came off the injured list, and Aaron Jackson, in his absence, didn't slug very well. So this pick never really panned out. I was hoping he could maybe be like the Joe Brown of third base, where a high C potential gets the job done, but you're going to fail more often than not when you try to make that work. We have again made it to the All-Star break. It doesn't appear we have anybody in the Derby this season. Brooks Matsui does make his first ever All-Star team in his second full big league season. We have found another gem there. He's the only pitcher, though, that made it. Doug Butcher will now be a 6-time All-Star every season of his career. That is amazing. He was so close to competing in the Derby, too. Darrell Ingram is in. Emilio De Jesus, Edgar Santana, names that we are very familiar with. But not as many All-Stars for us this season. We do see Charlie Condon sneak in here. He's had a really strong season. But no Hank Holder. At the halfway point, just checking on some numbers. Gary Brady, he's had a bit of a cold streak. Now 9 years of MLB service, so we're expecting some decline there. Hank Holder is down to an 87 overall. This makes me wonder, when we get to the end of his career, because now it feels like we're winding down a little bit earlier than I expected. Will Hank Holder make it to the Hall of Fame? He has a couple rings, which I don't think the game is going to take into account, but 2-time playoff MVP, 4-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger. Will he make it to the Hall of Fame? I don't know that it's a guarantee. I think there's a better chance of Darrell Ingram making it with the impressive home run numbers and the elite offense that he's always had, on top of being a 2-time MVP and having more accolades. Doug Butcher has suffered a broken shin ahead of the trade deadline, and he's going to miss 1 to 2 months. Should be back for a playoff run. I suppose then it's the perfect role for Byron Hollander if he can show us any kind of an offensive skill set. So at the deadline, it doesn't seem yet that McDermott has quite been ready for this role. And I do think we might want to look into a demotion the rest of the season. So we are going to swap McDermott for Israel Cordova. Same overall. We're going to give him a chance to make his major league debut. And he is the #1 prospect in baseball. We've been waiting on this one. And the pitching just never seems to end, because after Cordova, you've got Dwayne Shealy. He's not that far away. After him, Mark Schnell. He's not far away. After him, Mariano Valdez, Mustafa Jones. It just never ends. But our depth in other areas isn't quite the same. Byron Hollander just had to go on the injured list, so our depth is really being tested right now. Hank Holder has suffered an injury. Fractured forearm, out 2 to 3 months. This is the biggest injury I think he's ever sustained. And that leaves a big hole at shortstop. R.D. Castle can go over and take on that role. But, man, that really hurts. We're without Butcher right now. We're without Hank Holder. And what is this going to do now to his, season progression or regression? We see that the lefty ratings have gone down tremendously, power's down, and now he's probably not playing again this season. After putting up another good year of numbers. He's now past 250 career home runs. He's now up to 65.9 WAR. And of course, we have to think about his contract ultimately, which for some reason isn't showing up here on this screen right now. I'm not sure if the injury has anything to do with it, because his contract is up at the end of the year. Doug Butcher comes off the injured list with 1 week to go in the regular season. And we're close to another 100-win year. Hank Holder, though, he's going to be hurt into October. With 1 day left in the regular season, we have a 1-game lead on the Nationals, trying to clinch another East title. And Darryl Ingram comes into this game with 99 RBIs and 29 home runs, right on the doorstep of a couple more milestones. And he grounds one up the middle. Man, that was right down the center of the plate, and it's a double play. You know, Ingram started his major league career a year after Holder because he still played a year of minor league baseball. And because the game cares so much about length of MLB service, you know, you expect that he gets a little bit longer time to sustain his skills, you know, maybe a year. But he's still a 99. And now Holder's down to an 86 and maybe even lower now that he's been injured for the last couple of months. So I did not expect that these two playing side by side would end up where Ingram stays the Ingram we know longer than Holder. And it could be by a significant amount. Up the middle, over the mound, into center field. This might not be an RBI for Ingram, but he will have a base hit. Oh, we're playing for our 8th straight title right now. That's a lot on the line. I want to keep the streak going. I'm trying to tell him to take off here. I'm not really interested in stealing, honestly. I'm not sure if he's just going to take until we steal. That's been the case so far. All right, then. It's a walk to load him up. And we're going to move now into Jack Caglione. Final year of his deal in Miami. Can he put us on top? Hit weakly to the right side and scooped up. The inning comes to an end. A 1-0 game here in the 5th. Darryl Ingram facing Bill Fry again. And opposite field, this one is blasted and gone. 30 home runs achieved, 100 plus RBIs, and Darryl Ingram puts the Fish in front as they seek an 8th straight division title. I saw on the ticker that we're only a half game up on the Nationals now, so I'm guessing they won their game today. Roberts just put us up 2. And Ingram with a rocket. No, cannot extend it any further. So give me Brian Ariano. Man, he's blown 14 saves this year. Yeah, he has not been same caliber of player. We've seen some bullpen regression from him and Parsons. If you can't trust relievers as good as those two, I don't know if you can trust any reliever. Here's one to center. Edgar Batista running it down for the first out. Jack Caglione's going to take care of the second. Good curveball and 1 strike away. Brian Ariano. He gives up a drive. Condon back. Settles under. And the Marlins are still the kings of the National League East, winning their 8th straight title. But this year we had to clinch on the final game of the year. And we only win 99 after a series of 100-plus win games. We don't have to play in the wild card, though. We still win the number 1 seed, as do the Chicago White Sox in the American League. That means we have a little bit of time before our series ultimately against the Nationals, but we are still going to have to play without Hank Holder. He could likely come back for like the championship series, but for now he's out. Hasn't seen the overall fall further than 86, which is still kind of a staggering number to see him at. Robbie Parsons actually fell to an 82 this season. What a fall. This was a legitimately bad year, too. Negative .8 WAR. I can't believe he was this good, and in 2 years is unplayable. Juan Villa has taken his place, and hopefully he's got some good years, a great play ahead of him. I accidentally cleared all of our numbers going into the postseason. But, you know, we know that Ingram had another really high-level year. Edgar Batista, it feels like now he's transitioning into more so becoming one of the faces of this team, just as we had hoped. Theodore Roberts, he grew from like a 75 to an 83, seeing a ton of offensive development. And this is elite production at second base. This is far beyond what I expected this season of him. Paul Byrne, meanwhile, at 79, also saw good development, but didn't maintain a strong start. So I think that he's kind of an average, you know, catcher, but seems to be really good behind the plate. You know, errors isn't the best way to look at it, but he only has one error. If his WAR is a 3.1, I don't think this offense gets you much of the way there. Has to be defense then. So we got swept last year and didn't make it very far. It was shocking. Now, without Hank Holder, can we recover and go on a run this year? We lose 2 out of the first 3. Prince Tashner came in, gave up 3 runs. Yeah, this late inning bullpen does not seem to be getting the job done the way that they had in previous years. You know, bullpen wasn't the issue in the previous game. We only scored 4 runs. So we have 2 games left in the NLDS, playing for our playoff hopes right now, or playoff lives. Romeo Stevenson gets the start. Gary Brady, he hits a home run off Richard Castle. But then, William Blanco hits a home run off of Stevenson in the first. Home run in the third as Roberts pulls us even. We're going to make a pitching change here in the fourth with Stevenson giving up runners at the corners. We're going to put in Miguel Carrera, one of our best young relievers, trying to get us out of this jam. Right on the bottom edge. Count is full, and Carrera walks the bases full. What a chance for the Nationals here to try and move on to the next round. Here's a base hit lined into left field. Condon comes up throwing to the plate. Got him there as the Nationals do go up 1. That was a nice swing, and we trail again. Not a good outing here for Carrera. He gives up 3 singles. The only out comes on an outfield assist. So we're going to put in Juan Villa. And this is not an easy spot to enter with 2 on and nobody out. Facing Christian Campbell. And they're going. This is a drive to center, and that's going to be run number 4. Home run given up by Villa. They've scored in 3 straight innings. Suddenly 2 aboard for Miami. They've got to make the most of their chances late in this game. And it's a new pitcher coming in, Sergio Gomez, to face R.D. Castle, who is replacing Hank Holder and has done it really well this season. He hit .261, slugged .387. I mean, he's not an offense-first player or like a power player. He's an on-base and defense guy. And I think he's filling in as well as you could hope a backup shortstop would. Castle sees the count go full. 3-2 from Sergio Gomez. Walked him. They're full for Doug Butcher. Looking for a big hit that can swing the series. Flip to left center. And that is not going to fall. And that means this comes down to Darryl Ingram. Good slider from Gomez to get ahead 1-2. And got him again with the same pitch. Inning over. Home run Charlie Condon brings us within 2. Here's Edgar Batista. Can the young star in the making give us a big hit in the 8th? Back up the middle and through. Batista is on. And now the catcher, Paul Byrne. That was fouled off. Got him. And the Nationals will lead going into the ninth. And they're able to get an insurance run on top of it. That's lined into right field. Theodore Roberts will get a rally started top of the ninth. And now 3-2 on R.D. Castle. And he draws the walk. That brings the tying run up. Doug Butcher in the top of this lineup now trying to save the season. And it's a line drive to right field. We're going to hold him at third. We need 3 runs. We have loaded the bases with nobody out. What a spot for Darrell Ingram. Missing again. A lot of first pitch balls. Gets us ahead and puts us in the driver's seat. Studer at 17 pitches. Oh, I thought we got one there. And that was a little late. Oh no, the changeup now fouled off. Yeah, that one was a lot better. 1-2. Oh, man, that high breaking ball, it's a miss. They don't happen often. That one hurts to not swing at. Gary Brady. 3-2. You cannot walk him here. This has to be a strike of some kind. And it's on the outside edge. And we're down to our final out. Comes down to Charlie Condon. And it's a shot to right center field. Got a chance to tie it. No, it got cut off. And now... Oh, wait. I didn't think I sent him home. Should have been a 2-run double. Man. Yeah, you can tell I haven't played the game enough lately. That's a horrible way for it to end. I don't know how I sent him home. I thought I sent one of those guys home. So we ultimately fall short. And again, can't get out of the first round. The MVP this year was Kevin Guzman from the LA Dodgers. Their new young star, drafted way back in year 2 of the series. Now he's 27, hit 40 homers. There's a big-time player. And the Cy Young went to John Hamilton, beating out David Rivera. Theodore Roberts came in third for Rookie of the Year. That was a really successful move there. Hank Aaron Award goes to William Blanco, beating out Darrell Ingram. David Rivera was a Gold Glover this season. How about that? Paul Byrne, a Gold Glove catcher? You have some pretty good defense on this team. Darrell Ingram gets a Silver Slugger, the only one that we bring home this year. And as we sim this season to the end, it's a Nationals World Series win over the Yankees. So, it's now been 2 years since we made our last World Series. We went to 4 straight, won 2 of them. And now, our first sub-100 loss season, another first-round exit, aging stars like Hank Holder. You know, there's a lot more uncertainty now with this team. Man, I can't believe he cut that ball off, though, in the gap. I really wasn't counting on that. So, 1 playoff win in the last 2 years. And we've made it to another offseason. So, the retired players now. We have any Marlins? Not seeing any. Bryce Harper has made the Hall of Fame with 546 home runs. And now Hank Holder is projected to be a free agent. He's an 86 overall, should continue to decline. And he's looking for a 5-year contract. You know, 3 is what I had in mind, so him coming up with 5 there doesn't feel like too unreasonable. I'm going to see if I can get away with a 3-year offer, but I don't know if I like my chances. Brian Ariano, he's had a couple kind of down years now. The ERA and WHIP have been inflated. Advanced numbers still like him a lot. I'd like for him to return. It's a very small list of free agents this year, oddly enough. Jack Caglione hits free agency again. I don't think we really have another plan there at first base, so I'd be down for one more season, especially at this price point. I upped the offer on Hank Holder. And keep in mind, he's never made like a $30 million season because we signed him early to a team-friendly deal, knowing he'd probably become a superstar. And it looks like we have the deal done. So we get the 3 years that I wanted, because then we can see where his skills are at, and if we just want to keep him on the team, then the salary will be a lot more reasonable at that point, especially if he's barely or under 80 overall, and it's a lot more likely he's under. But we are keeping Hank Holder here, and we'll see if Darryl Ingram now starts to regress a lot faster with 9 years of Major League service. We've hit free agency. I did increase a couple offers. Wow, Emilio De Jesus is becoming a free agent. I don't think I can make a run at him. We did manage to keep Jack Caglione. I signed him to a 2-year deal. I didn't want to have to go to free agency. I don't have a good backup plan at first base, so we'll just get him signed. But I might lose Brian Ariano. He doesn't have a lot of interest in coming back. I didn't get a deal done beforehand. I had increased the offer and made it a 2-year contract. So that could be the end of his time in Miami. I'm also seeing here, I don't really have room. I have $25 million in budget. I haven't even gotten to arbitration. I think I might be factoring that stuff in. But this is going to be a pretty quiet offseason, it seems. Guess who's back again? It's George Soriano. Now or never on Brian Ariano. Brian Ariano is signing a contract, and he is going to be headed to the Chicago White Sox, who signed him to a 5-year deal. Are you kidding me? Glenn Bryan, Brian Ariano, those are the top 2 players on this team. As the White Sox, I mean, look how nasty this rotation is. Relatively young Arturo Guillen, 2 years of service. That's a nasty rotation they've built here. They got a 22-year-old catcher who looks like a top prospect kind of guy, elite production last year. It's cool seeing, these teams that were dumpster fires in the beginning of the franchise get rebuilt so well. Huey Costa, we traded him there, and it looks like he's starting to figure things out a little bit, but might just be an average, offensive right fielder, but an elite defensive guy. Been a while since I checked on a couple players. Evan Carter is down to a 74 overall, and this last season was the big fall. So he still had one more high-level season in him. He enjoyed that in Philadelphia, but last year was a colossal step down, and he's under contract for next season. So that's why I did not look to bring him back. It was time to move on. Joe Brown is with the Tigers now after a year in Atlanta. And, he's a steady player. I guess his production doesn't change much year to year. If you want an above average offensive first baseman, he's probably your guy. And not a bad contract, $13 million a year. Walker Jenkins did not fall very far last season. He played at a pretty high level again in Toronto and is signed for 5 more years. Kyle Harrison ended up getting picked up by the Mets. And his ERA was up, but he was still a serviceable, more bottom-of-the-rotation guy. But they paid him a lot for that role, and he's under contract for 2 more years. Emilio De Jesus, 12 years, $495 million. Just make it a clean 500, guys. Come on. How do you end up on these numbers? The Cubs have signed away De Jesus from the Rockies to a 12-year contract. on a guy who has 6 years of MLB service time. So I didn't sign anybody this offseason then. Didn't have a lot of budget. We got $22 million in space as we get into spring training. I don't think the bullpen looks as good as it usually does. I think we're going to try to make Juan Villa the young closer now and see if he can take on this role. We still have him, Soriano, Parsons, and Tashner. Just shocked at Parsons' fall here. This is unbelievable because he's such a nasty pitcher. It was fun to pitch with him at the top of his game. But it's like that playoff run where I blew a couple opportunities with him, just broke him. We have made a long-term deal now with our ace and have signed Jorge Vizcaíno to a 4-year extension through 2041. He's developed into a very steady pitcher, does not, give up a ton of base runners. The whip is very low. The strikeouts have translated. And he's one of the best pitchers in the game. The rotations come together nicely. Israel Cordova will be in the rotation, it looks like, to start this next season. And we don't have to change anything as far as the starting lineup goes. Here in 2037, I really want to see what type of year we get from Hank Holder. With a bit more regression, we could see him no longer look like that all-star caliber hitter. Last season, the ratings fell, but the stats really didn't. Missed a lot of time at the end, of course. But he is now a 10-year Major League veteran. 252 home runs, a career 285 hitter. Fantastic career, and I hope we still get some great play from him. And we can extend this a bit with him still playing well. Darrell Ingram, meanwhile, at 99 overall, has a 13-point gap over his draft rival, Hank Holder. He's entering his 10th year of MLB service. We'll see if there's any kind of regression from him. Gary Brady has now reached 10 years as well. And expectations are still that we are the 1 seed in the National League. And we have been for many years. Been strange to see the playoff success disappear. I don't know why Hank Holder's wearing number 13. That doesn't make any sense. Pop that one up. Come on, Hank. That ain't like you. Over to third base. And doubled up is Hank Holder. We're not able to get him a good start to his season here offensively. I'm really curious if he ends up making it to the Hall of Fame. It's a very short list of players who end up making it every offseason, usually 1 or 2 guys. Is Holder going to make the cut? Well, we win on opening day. Vizcaíno gives us 5 1/3 good innings, and Juan Villa gets the save. On back-to-back days, we just had injuries take place to Doug Butcher and Hank Holder, putting both on the injured list. So we're approaching mid-season. Hank Holder has fallen now to an 83 overall, seeing 3 more points of regression. His skills are still good. And for an 83 overall, he still has decent defense, good speed, solid offense. And there hasn't been a significant decline yet in his offensive output. Average is down, but he's still Hank Holder. We had nobody make it to the Derby this season. Jorge Vizcaíno does make it to the All-Star game for his second time. Juan Villa makes it. He's saved 27, only blown 2. There's some success again. Darrell Ingram makes the All-Star team. We got Emilio De Jesus there. But not many Marlins. Gary Brady will be a bench all-star, and his numbers are getting better at age 31? That doesn't make much sense. Gary Brady just suffered a torn finger ligament, and he had been one of our best players. He's going to miss 1 to 2 months, and it is mid-September. His season is basically over. We dominate the regular season again, are the 1 seed, as are the White Sox. That's been the case for a while, but neither has made a World Series appearance in quite some time. Theodore Roberts was our home run leader. as our second baseman. So Darrell Ingram only hits 26, and he falls to a 95 overall. There was a little bit of decline in his offensive production. Not too surprising. Gary Brady, meanwhile, was fighting off regression extremely well, and now it's the second straight postseason where we're missing one of our best players. Jack Caglione's down to an 82, seeing some rating regression, but the numbers were good. Hank Holder, 80 overall. Wow. Already down to an 80. This year he hit 251, only a 460 slugging. 2 years in a row, missing significant time due to injury. Man. Edgar Batista, I know I checked on his numbers mid-season and they weren't in a good spot. Looks like his second half was good, so I think things are still on track overall with him. Clearly a down year by the rating, going down there. Doug Butcher's still doing well, but now injuries have caught up to him the last 2 seasons. Still impressed with R.D. Castle. I definitely didn't think he'd be this good offensively. He took a step this season. He's playing like a starting caliber player. Let's see, Israel Cordova. No, this is not going as smoothly as I wanted it to. The ERA's high, the FIP's better. Looks like he's home run prone, and that's the big rating weakness. And maybe it gets better. He's got plenty of time to do it. But for now, it's his big issue. David Rivera. Looks like he had another really good season for us. We got Jorge Vizcaíno, a sub-3 ERA. Looks like his strikeout rate just gets better and better every season. And Romeo Stevenson's figured it out. Brooks Matsui is consistent. So we're still hitting for a really high batting average as a team. We're still scoring the most runs. Homers are a little bit down. Nobody cleared 30 this year for us. And the team ERA, not quite where the White Sox are. Their rotation's nasty. Ours is top 5, though. This feels like the end of an era here in a way when you think about Hank Holder's an 80 right now, and if we make the playoffs again and go on a run next year, what would his rating be then? This might be the last chance Hank Holder can still kind of resemble himself in a postseason run. Darrell Ingram is 15 points higher rated, and it's now been 2 seasons, 2 straight years we missed the World Series. And we have just stunk in the postseason. We lose the first 2 games to the Nationals. Look at all the extra base hits. Vizcaíno gets rocked. I mean, when we go into the postseason with these pitchers and they cannot get the job done, what can you do? Rivera and Vizcaíno both got rocked.
Play ball.
Brooks Matsui gets the start. Our backs are against the wall. No, they took a hit away from him. Double play of Hank Holder. Home run, Edgar Batista. We have to go win 3 consecutive games. It's going to take some big offense, and the pitching needs to find a way to step up. Home run Butcher. Shout out to Brooks Matsui. 5 innings of 1-hit ball. Let's make it 6. No, 7. All right, Mackenzie McDermott isn't getting the job done. We'll put in Juan Villa. And we will at least take this game and give us a chance. Now trailing 2-1. Romeo Stevenson gets the start in Game 4. We trail 1-0. And Stevenson's given us a good outing. 6 innings, 1 run, but we have not scored. Nationals tack on 2 with a Christian Campbell single. And we're running out of time. It's the 9th inning. We haven't scored and have a 4% chance at victory. Got him. On the curveball, Butcher strikes out. Back up the middle now. It's Darrell Ingram. He will reach. Good curveball. Gomez versus Holder. Count is even. Holder skies it to right field. And that makes it 2 down. All up to Theodore Roberts now, who has broken out as a new star. And he puts one in the air, deep to right field. And it's run down as the Nationals knock us out for the 2nd straight season. It's been 3 years of failing to get out of the NLDS. Another crushing defeat for the Miami Marlins, as it appears the dynasty has crumbled. You know, we made 4 consecutive World Series. We've built up this great veteran core, but between regression and injuries and just other teams getting built up, our time at the top has ended. Here's the roster at this state. Darryl Ingram at 95, Vizcaino 93. Hank Holder is way down the board now, sitting at an 80 overall. And I think at this point, I am going to now make the team handle itself automatically. I've handled a bunch of extra off seasons now, 3 in this video. Haven't gotten back to the World Series. I am ready to see, you know, the end of this franchise, I believe. Holder is going to be regressing, still making a lot of money, so we're going to see what ends up happening with the final days of his career. But I think now we move forward a little bit more rapidly. The Nationals beat the Yankees again in the World Series. So we have seen a bit of a Washington Nationals dynasty now in this as well. Immediately following our run, Edgar Santana leads the way, and he's held that 98 overall for 11 years. I'm not sure what allows players to have more, you know, long-term upside than others, but it's been kind of surprising to see Holder's fall when he only has 1 more year of MLB service than Darryl Ingram, and Ingram's now 15 overall higher. But we're going to advance to the offseason, and we're going to see what the team chooses to do now. We are waiting to see when Hank Holder retires, and then, you know, we're probably going to have to wait for a few more retirements, so there'll be a decent bit of simulating. Just had Robbie Snelling retire at 55 overall. Had a pretty long career after not really panning out with us. Xavier Edwards just retired at 50 overall, 38 years old. Sometimes they wait a few years to officially retire, but you know what? He went out without ever, you know, regressing as an average hitter. Ends up with 1,436 hits, really good career averages. Xavier Edwards was a big part of this series' success. On to 2038. Not seeing a lot of changes here on the team. Still have the same main starters, same rotation. Man, we might end up seeing R.D. Castle play a bit more than Hank Holder, potentially. I'm still going to try to manage the lineup to a degree. Looks like the main change is that Ruiz and Batista are both going to be starters now. Neither will be on the bench. But where does regression take the veterans of this team now? I'm expecting Hank Holder to probably fall to like a 76 overall. Hopefully with good performance, it can stabilize in the high 70s. This is kind of the first time we've struggled a bit to start a season, although we just had a 4-game win streak. But we're playing basically 500 ball through the first month. All right. The Rockies just traded Aubrey Fenner, who's somehow got down to a 75. Where did that regression come from? He was in the 80s. Why is he a 75 overall? Yeah, sometimes I think the progression model in the game works pretty well and reflects the production, but it gets it wrong often. And this is one where I have no explanation. It's mid-season, and this team is above 500, playing well. We have someone in the Derby this year. Darryl Ingram made it. I'm going to skip the Derby this time around. So let's see where things are. Hank Holder is already at a 76. And there's your regression. The arm isn't really all that impressive anymore. The power is probably disappearing. Yep, slugging is down. He's probably going to clear 300 home runs and land somewhere between 3 and 4. But now we have Theodore Roberts, who is up to a 90. His ascension continues, along with Edgar Batista, up to an 88. Cool to see. Darrell Ingram's down to a 93. There is now a 17-point difference between his and Hank's overall. That's the part that gets me. You know, Ingram continues to hit at this elite level, while Holder, his prime is going to be a lot shorter. Gary Brady's down to an 86. Still another year under contract. Pitching looks really good. McDermott's kind of, struggling. Why is Matsui in the pen? Why isn't he playing well? You know what? We haven't done a Johnny Grieve update in a while. 34 years old, 81 overall with the LA Angels. Nearing that 10-year mark, he has 160 career homers. He's found stability playing in Los Angeles. Good for him. Solid career. We're going to fall well shy of 100 wins this season, but we have hit 90. And this year we're the 2 seed. White Sox still the 1 seed in the American League. Darrell Ingram hit 44 home runs this season. His power actually ends up going up, and he's a 93. Teddy Roberts, 28 home runs, 91 overall. We have a superstar second baseman now. Doug Butcher. Did he make it to another All-Star game? He didn't in 2037, but he's now made 7 All-Star games. Gary Brady, 20 homers, hit 290. He has 3 batting titles in his career. 200 plus homers, almost 2,000 hits. Ruiz had a good year. Hank Holder ends up with a 75 overall rating. He has 16 homers, and his numbers offensively are still pretty league average and starting caliber. 1.4 WAR. The errors went way up. His days as an elite shortstop are now well behind him. And honestly, now he probably offers a lot more offensively than defensively. So we take on St. Louis this year. After 3 years of not making it past the NLDS, we lose Game 1 again. We cannot win a Game 1. Holder hits a homer and doubles. He's doing his part. Vizcaino even did. But we only managed to score 3. Game 2, we get the win. We got Israel Cordova on the mound. He goes 8, takes care of business. Villa gets the save. The young pitching gets us a win there. And then David Rivera scores us a 4-3 win the next day as Batista hits a home run. We're 1 win from advancing. We'll have to win it, though, in Game 5. Home run, Andreas Ruiz. And then Doug Butcher. Jorge Vizcaino is on his game this time. It's been a while since he had a great postseason game. He does give up a home run, though. We're going to yank him in the 7th. Ruiz double, Paul Burns single. And with a double play in the 9th, we take it finally in Game 5. The Marlins' first series win in 4 years. This gets us a matchup with the Cubs in the NLCS. And we sweep them. 4 lopsided games. Wow. We have made it back to the World Series. Castle, Ingram, Caglione went yard in that first game. This is incredible. We have another chance, everybody. We play the Detroit Tigers in the World Series. Was kind of hoping we'd get the White Sox, but they got swept. We have returned. We win Game 1 by a score of 15-3. Look at all the homers. Butcher, Holder, Ingram twice, Andreas Ruiz. 1-0. Then Detroit answers back. They take the next one, dropping 7. We had a rough start from Israel Cordova. We win big in Game 3. Now 10-1. No homers either. David Rivera goes deep into the game. We lose Game 2. Back and forth this series goes. Final game in Detroit is a win. 2-1. We got the start from Jorge Vizcaíno we were looking for. And we are 1 win from a World Series title again. Hank Holder doubles. His postseason numbers have looked really good. We don't score there in the first. So Cordova's getting Game 6. And a run is scored early here on the Roman Anthony single. Roberts with the double. Batista with a walk. And Caglione. Oh, we only get 1. Joe Brown. Yeah, I forgot he'd be in this series. Home run. That's Darrell Ingram trying to get a title. And at this point, I don't think Darrell Ingram has a World Series title in his career. So he's still got a lot to play for personally. 2-1. Cordova gives up the tying home run in the 5th.
Now pitching for the Marlins.
And then Romeo Stevenson enters, and he gives up the go-ahead homer.
Thomas Whitaker.
Home run in the 8th.
For the Marlins.
And Schnell gives up a home run.
Now.
And a second one.
For Detroit.
So,
Number 9.
there's only one thing we've not done in this series. And that is win a Game 7. This is it. Winner takes the series. It's the only thing we have not checked off. Winner take all right now. I think I've got one more full game in me in this series. And we're playing for everything today. David Rivera takes the mound for us to try and bring our 3rd title of the franchise. And he strikes out the leadoff man, Irvin Dempsey. Deep behind first base, chasing Caglione. It's a 1-2-3 first inning. And the Tigers will pitch Charlie Tan. I don't think I've ever seen him in this series. Up the middle. Diving stop. And Butcher is retired. Darrell Ingram, deep drive. That's to right, near the track. But no, it's caught. What a pitch. Tan throws a 1-2-3 first inning. That hit him. Slider ran too far inside. And now we face Joe Brown. After all the years spent with us, winning a couple rings, going to a bunch of World Series. And now Joe Brown gets hit. That's 2 in a row. Got him. Big strikeout there for Rivera. And Roman Anthony singles through the middle. That on a 2-0 pitch. And the Tigers score first. And they have an injury. Bouncing in front of Byrne. He recovers. Joe Brown, he's out. And that's the inning. Rivera only gives up the 1. Teddy Roberts draws a walk and is our first base runner. He takes off. Ruiz strikes out, but Roberts makes it into scoring position. And here is Hank Holder hitting in the 6th spot. And Holder smashes it to 3rd, and it's somehow caught. You can see the smoke coming off the ball. It was hit so hard. 107 off the bat. How do you do that? And this one's hit up the middle by Caglione, and the Tigers retire the side. And Dempsey, top of the third, a change up to the bullpen. And it's 2-0 Detroit. Edgar Batista laces a single to center bottom 3. Off the glove, up to second base, and they'll get Byrne. To the right side, Butcher's out. And they get Darrell Ingram. We fail to score. Rivera, top 4, gets the ground ball from Joe Brown for an out. We've drawn another walk. We got to move these base runners better. Good play at first, and that is a double play. Ruiz in the air, and we have been unable to score through 4. Rivera with a clean 5th puts another 0 on the board. Oh, a bomb from Caglione deep to left field. We're on the board finally. 423. Got one right over the heart of the plate. Paul Byrne, that's to the gap. 2 out extra base hits. We've gotten after that changeup. Maybe we'll chase him out of the game now. And the Tigers will make a pitching change now as we have a chance to tie the game. Oh, that was a great pitch. Come on, Doug. Line drive, foul. Got him. Went to the breaking ball. We get one back. Got the offense rolling a little bit there. Popped up. David Rivera has been dialed in. He's had single pitch innings in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, it said. Single digit, that is. But now a drive to left center. Vance Johnson has made it a 2-run lead again. And we're going to look to end his day there. Unfortunately, a couple homers given up. We'll turn it over to Carrara. Got the strikeout. Let's see if we can get some more offense going. Back up the middle, Darrell Ingram, base hit. And Gary Brady then draws a 4-pitch walk. Oh, Theodore Roberts got a fastball there, man. And Roberts drives it deep to right. The torch has been passed. And he puts the Marlins in front. 3-run homer, Teddy Roberts. One of my final draft picks in competitive balance round B. He smoked that ball. Andreas Ruiz driving deep to left. Back-to-back jacks. One of the final draft picks I made. And then the second pick of the entire series. Andreas Ruiz waited years for his chance. And it's back-to-back home runs. Marlins lead by 2. And of course, you've got Hank Holder after the 2 of them. He throws the bat into the stands. Do not give that back to him. You can probably sell that for like 50 grand. A lot more than that, right? Oh, come on, Hank.
0-2 is the count.
What would a Hank Holder bat be worth in like 2040? In the World Series.
2 strikes.
What if it's his last World Series game? Holder, right center. Caught. Batista into center. He's got his second hit. Ground ball to short. That's the inning, and what an inning it was. The bats come alive. We hit 2 homers. Teddy Roberts puts us on top, and Andreas Ruiz gives us a 2-run cushion. And here is Joe Brown, top of the 7th. Gone on 3 pitches is Joe Brown. Miguel Carrara gets us through the 7th with his 4th out. We're putting in Jay Collins. This is a player they added in free agency without any of my input. He's an 84 overall reliever who's been in the late inning role the entire season. Big strike there from Collins. 3-2 on Duffy. He struck him out. Pulled the left. Got him inside there. Ruiz makes the catch. And Dempsey to Theodore Roberts. We have finished the top of the 8th.
Shortstop.
Hank Holder's hitting here, bottom of the 8th. This could be his final at-bat in the World Series. And Holder strikes out on the high fastball. Caglione flied into center, and that looks to be it here in the 8th. Here's our chance, everybody. 9th inning. We're going to call upon Juan Villa. 4 of 5 here in the postseason. What was he during the regular season? Villa. Okay, he wasn't really saving a lot of games then this year at all. I think it was Collins. The roles have flipped now in the postseason. And here we go, top of the 9th. Oh, come on. That's catching the whole zone there, man. Tigers need 2. First step is to get a man on. And it's flipped to right. Ingram toward the line. He's got space, makes the catch. We went down earlier in this franchise, losing 2 straight NLCS in Game 7. This is to center, Batista in, makes the catch. We lost 3 straight Game 7s, one of them being a World Series. And now, a few years later, when it seemed the dynasty was over, look who's back in the World Series and now 1 out away. Edgar Quero takes a changeup that clips the zone. I drafted Juan Villa back in year 6, my competitive balance round B selection. I wanted to add some good relief talent, and finally did at that point. 1-1 and low as he bounces it. In there at 95, and Villa is 1 pitch away. And a Game 7 win at last here in the Marlins franchise. 2 rings wasn't enough. We make it 3. We built the team back up, finally returned. It's changed a bit, and that new blood fuels our win. It was going to take someone other than Hank Holder or Darryl Ingram in this game. Theodore Roberts, he hits the big home run that ultimately put us ahead. Andreas Ruiz was big. Rivera gave us a good start, and the bullpen was lights out. That was amazing. I didn't think I was playing another full game in this series. I had been thinking about, too, in this game, how Hank Holder's defense, could end up, his defense isn't as good, so I was worried about balls being hit to him. There was not a single defensive play that Hank Holder was involved in this game. We got a lot of fly ball outs, jam contact to the corners. And in 2038, there are your World Series champions. 3 hits, that's all they were able to get. 2 homers. Joe Brown 0 for 2 with a hit by pitch. Not too bad. My first full game in a little while. Got the swing, feeling all right there in the middle of the game. All right, the potential range here is crazy on Theodore Roberts, 94 to 99. I don't know if he could ever actually reach that with limited offensive skills and already being 22, but we got to add a position player. Theo Roberts is next. How about Theodore Roberts, everybody? Wasn't expecting him to develop quite that well today. I kind of forgot about him. We let him take over for Termarr Johnson, and the rest is history. Darrell Ingram is your World Series MVP. 5 homers will do that. And after the Nationals won back-to-back, it was time for us to reclaim the throne. Postseason MVP, Darrell Ingram. And so, at 91 overall, it was Theodore Roberts with the huge swing that helps us finally win a Game 7. And at least have that home run, too, with Andreas Ruiz, man. Talk about long-term storytelling there. Second pick of the series. What did we just do? We signed Henry Daniel to a 6-year contract. We have replaced Hank Holder. Henry Daniel, 30 years old, 6 years of service. We signed him away from the Braves. Man, truly the end of an era. The Dodgers just signed a catcher to a $180 million deal. He was with the Pirates and must have gotten hurt last year after 9 games. Miguel Carrera goes to the Cubs on a 3-year deal. That feels really reasonable, too, for 10 a year. We lose one of our better relievers. And Andreas Ruiz has left to the Pittsburgh Pirates. He gets a good 3-year deal to go play there. I feel like we had just gotten to see him for the first time make a big impact. But yeah, now Henry Daniel takes over, it looks like, at shortstop. We're going to have Hank Holder probably be more of a backup now this year, which, feels premature given the stat drop-off doesn't match the overall, but that's where we are after they make a big contract there. Hank Holder is down to a 69 overall. He's hit 4 homers this season, coming off the bench. He's definitely gotten some starts in there. Yeah, not quite the player he once was, I think, especially defensively. I accidentally simmed the whole postseason. I meant to stop it. We won another World Series. We did it. We won against Baltimore. So another World Series goes to the Marlins. So now that's 4 in this experience. I didn't do anything this time. Let me see. Was Hank Holder in that last World Series game? Was he on the roster? I don't think he would have been starting or anything. So hard to say. He wasn't on the playoff roster here. So I think we have seen his final World Series game. And truly the end of an era. So I think those are going to be all the awards he racks up in his career. Potentially he ends up with 291 career home runs, almost 1,800 career games played, and a WAR of 71.5. Darrell Ingram is now down to an 86. Now there's a 17-point gap in their overalls. But Ingram's still mashing. I mean, he's at 443 career homers. Edgar Batista, he's up to a 90 now and continues to play as one of this team's best stars. Rotation looks really nice as McDermott's up to a 90. Vizcaino is actually regressing now. This is happening so fast. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Theodore Roberts, another really good year. Looks like he made it to the All-Star team the previous season. Juan Villa saved 33 games, only blew 3. Got stability in the rotation. Largely, this is entirely homegrown. I drafted every starter in this rotation at one point or another. Matsui was a 6th-round pick in year 3, and look how he panned out. Rafael Devers is the newest member of the Hall of Fame. He hit over 500 career home runs, played for over 20 seasons. One more at-bat, and he could have had 10,000. I don't care if it's money down the drain. Y'all are not letting Hank Holder leave. But Gary Brady's a free agent. Doug Butcher's a free agent now with 9 years experience, 201 home runs, one of my favorite players. Let's see what they continue to do to this team. Here's how things look going into the new year. Darrell Ingram, is he just a DH now? His defense isn't that bad, but that might end up being his new role in 2040. William Trowbridge over at third base. I guess we lost Gary Brady. Who is Buster Dill in left field? I've never heard of Buster Dill. And now things are starting to look a lot more different around here. Byron Hollander, he's getting a chance to play at first base again. Teddy Roberts. So Hank Holder, I'm sure, is still in the organization. He didn't take it? I offered him 2 years, $10 million. He's still a free agent. And now we're going to sign him to a 2-year deal. Hank Holder has fallen to a 61 overall. It appears his playing days are over. The retirement is more of a formality. I think it's time for Hank Holder to go on his little retirement tour as he ends his playing days. Hank Holder is a 61, and Darrell Ingram is now an 80 overall. And yeah, his numbers have fallen significantly. He might, be able to squeeze out another 39 home runs. It could take a couple of years, though, and that would give him 500. Hank Holder has been called back up to the major leagues to play the final series of the season, and the final series at home against the New York Mets. He will start all 3 of these games as we have nothing to play for as a team at this stage. And these will be the final games with Hank Holder. He is a 61 overall. Regression hit him quick. He gave it all he had through his 20s, and now at age 31, he's not the same player anymore. That's some pretty unforgiving regression that he's experienced. So I don't know if we could somehow get one more home run with him. That might be a little much to ask for. I'd like to get one more hit, though. I made sure he'd have his number 2 back in his rightful possession. Here's a ground ball, and doesn't have the range to get to that one without leaving his feet. As far as milestones go, I don't see anything within reach here for Holder. I think it's just to see him play one final time. It's to right. Hit fairly well, and that's a flyout. Oh, this should be no problem. That's going to be a nice and easy little pop-up for him to catch. Broke his bat for maybe the last time on an infield fly rule. That's going to be flipped to him. Good throw on the first. He and Teddy Roberts there. In the air and driven to right. That one is also run down and caught. That's to right center, and Hank Holder with the bases loaded delivers again. It is a 2-run single. That might be the last hit of his career. It was a good swing. And then Theodore Roberts, he's at 35 home runs. Man, Roberts might have just, only appeared in like 2 episodes whenever I drafted him and then today. But I think he might have a little bit of staying power. When I make, those teams, when I make that team of players on Super Mega Baseball 4, do I include Teddy Roberts? Maybe like the young prospect Teddy Roberts is a part of that. All in all, this is going to be a very fun way to conclude this series, to go through and win that Game 7. Never did that prior to today. And then to bring all this to a conclusion. Thank you all for supporting this series and allowing this to become one of my favorite that I've ever done. I've spent a lot of time in this series, and it's one of my favorites that I've brought to the channel. Still too strong for that one to bloop in. This will launch us into my break from playing the show until we get to next year and baseball season again. But with, the success of this series, I haven't minded continuing to play it into October and now even November when the real baseball season is over. Typically when we get to like August, September, the series sees a big drop-off in viewership. And the drop-off this year was like less than ever. I'm not used to that. Man, we had some chances that at bat, Hank. All right, finally a ground ball hit to him. Clean field. Good throw, not great, but he got him. I'd love to hear all your favorite moments and players down below in the comments. Maybe your favorite, underrated player or under the radar player from this series. That is to left center, and it falls in. Hank has another hit. Here's Theodore Roberts. And I think it's time for him to attempt to steal one final base. Take this, Teddy. He doesn't. That's the inning. There's one on the ground again. Holder. That is catchable. I've played a lot of player lock with Hank Holder in this series. I know that these throws are not as accurate as they once were. Flip to right. Wow, this storyline here comes full circle. J.J. Kohler. Drafted him in year 2. I didn't leave enough room on the roster for him, so he ended up getting cut and went to free agency. Not much of a story, but J.J. Kohler at one time was somebody I thought we'd have for a while. To his right, Holder. That's what I'm talking about as he retires Hardesty. And that's going to do it for this one. The Marlins win again, and we are going to go into the final game of the year. It is Hank Holder's last game. I had an interesting idea that I knew would take far too much time to actually consider. But as I thought about going through the long-term sim, I thought it would be fun if I did an entire season of player lock games with Hank Holder, so we could see what a full season would actually look like statistically. That would simply take far more hours than it would be worth. But it crossed my mind. And that wasn't going to be with a 61 overall Hank Holder. That was going to be with a still major league caliber. Struck him out. Swinging through the slider. Man, Juan Villa's got 53 saves. It's fun going deep into this series and still seeing draft picks of mine pan out and continue the cycle of greatness that we've built here. Probably going to lose this game, but I would love, man, if we could just get a hold of one more pitch. Bottom of the 8th, this could be it. Is this my final at-bat with Hank Holder and MLB The Show 25 with my Miami Marlins? Do I swing at the first pitch? Not this time. All right, he's down to his final strike in his final potential plate appearance. Okay, that was, for some reason, a pitch that really fooled me. Oh, man, what a series, guys. This has been an incredible ride. We get knocked out in the first round this year, but after back-to-back World Series, you know, that's all right. Cubs end up taking it this time around. They signed Emilio De Jesus, and now they are the champions. Retirements. I'm looking to see Hank Holder retire, and if he ends up making the Hall of Fame. So it looks like Hank Holder's final stats will look like this. A career .279 hitter, 291 home runs, 1,949 career hits. Is this a Hall of Fame resume? When you consider how great of a defender he's been, when you consider the 4 Silver Sluggers, 4 All-Star appearances, surprisingly no Gold Glove. That one does shock me. Darryl Ingram remains on the team and signed through this year and next, as he's an 80 overall. So ultimately, that contract I gave him has aged really nicely. He might, you know, not be great next year, and yeah, $45 million with that kind of money, not great, but you kind of factor into some of these massive deals on superstars that at the end of it, you are going to stink, and you are going to pay a lot of money. But the first 7 years, you know, or why you make the deal. Theodore Roberts is now in 98. Theodore Roberts, everybody. Y'all better sign him long term. We made the postseason this year, but as a wild card, the 5th seed. That's shocking, but we made it back. Roberts had a 30 home run season, now 165 in his career. What about Darryl Ingram, 19? And now he's a 74 overall, so he needs 19 more if he's to reach 500. Cordova is now the ace, and we've seen a lot of turnover, but it's still, you know, internally filled in most cases. Jorge Vizcaíno, even at 80 overall, these numbers are sensational. How did the strikeouts get even better? Man, I wish if you played this well, you wouldn't regress like that. Oh, he's been in the bullpen for 2 years. Juan Villa must have left in free agency. Darn. Yeah, I don't recognize a lot of his starting lineup anymore. It's really just Roberts and Ingram. We won in the wild card round and then lost in the NLDS to the Cubs. The champions end up being the Orioles over the Dodgers. Drew Jones retired. He was a big part of the series there for a while, up until 2031. Never panned into a great major league hitter. Max Meyer retired at age 42. This is the tough part here. Sometimes it takes like 6 years for a guy to finally retire. That's why I just kind of wanted to say, all right, this is it with Hank Holder. We'll see, you know, if he makes the Hall of Fame. I want to sim far enough to find out. Ellie De La Cruz is in the Hall of Fame. And so just comparing shortstop to shortstop, you know, Hank doesn't have the same homers or hits. The volume stats don't reach that level. Will he still be able to make it eventually? Brian Ariano just inked another big deal with the Cubs. Oh, that's disgusting. Why'd you guys let Theodore Roberts go to the Phillies? And how about this? Edgar Batista is now on the Dodgers, signing a 5-year deal there. And they got Juan Villa. This just isn't right. Taking a look at the roster, Darryl Ingram, he's still here at the majors. Looks like he's just holding on, but he's probably not going to play very much more. Again, we make it as a wild card team, so our streak of postseason seasons continues. But now I don't recognize this lineup, you know, whatsoever. I drafted Alexis Sanchez in year 6. So that's like the only player I really have any connection to now on this roster. It appears that Darryl Ingram didn't make the playoff roster, so he's going through what Hank Holder had just gone through. He hit 2 homers this year. You know, at this stage, probably not going to be able to get 17 more for 500. But still a great career, and maybe this is it for him. 64.5 WAR, was a negative WAR player this season, was a 2-time MVP, 10 Silver Sluggers, 11 All-Star appearances, and for about 96% of this series, he was simply a rival. And we have been knocked out in the NLCS as the Padres end up winning the World Series this year. Joe Mack just retired at age 40. R.D. Castle just retired at 60 overall, spent a few years out of the league. Actually had a good little 4-year run as a role player for us. Walter Zhu, same draft class as Holder and Ingram. And he made it to the majors really early in his career. 1,388 hits, 130 home runs. Rookie of the year, but never an all-star. George Soriano spent a lot of years playing in this series, and a lot of them, you know, on our team. He's going to end up with 938 appearances. Yeah, very good player. Rocky in the beginning, but stuck with him for a long time to where he became, you know, a pretty high-end late relief guy. Carved out a pretty darn good career. Looks like the playing days of Johnny Grieve are also over. He was the #1 pick of the franchise. And he had a very good career. He, you know, did a pretty good job with us. Had a big 2030, but he was very inconsistent and didn't really have the type of career I thought he would until he went to the Angels. If this was how he was playing with us, I probably would have signed him long term and never ended up getting Gary Brady. But I made that late change. He ends up with a solid career, you know, 208 home runs, a career 267 hitter, 1,820 hits. Only 1 All-Star, 1 Gold Glove, 1 Silver Slugger. Good player. Type of player you'd remember after like 14 years and be like, yeah, he was pretty good. And then go about your day. Walker Jenkins is down to a 61. So the regression, you know, it shows up fast. You go from being a solid player to now not even making the roster in no time. That regression curve is far too steep and far too early when a player like Hank Holder is on his retirement farewell tour at age 32. I mean, he's younger than I am right now. We were treating him like he was 82 years old, and it was amazing he was even out there. Israel Cordova's gone. He signs on with the Rangers. So we're on to another brand new year, and yeah, I know a few of the pitchers. That's about it. The regression curve makes it so hard for you to chase the all-time like leaderboards because you got to get it done in like 12 years. Like Darryl Ingram not being a 500 home run hitter is mind-boggling to me. We still keep making the postseason, which usually by now we're a bottom-feeding team and are done competing for titles. Knocked out in the first round. Orioles win again against the Dodgers. Ricky Berg just retired. He was in like every home run derby when I was like simming through, it seemed. 251 career home runs. Yeah, the careers for players are just so short here. And you combine the steep regression curve with the slow progression curve. And it's like you got guys making it to the majors in a lot of cases in their mid to late 20s, and then they can only play for, you know, a handful of years. There's just not really a good path to, you know, I thought Hank Holder would legitimately play like 22 years because I guess I didn't realize how steep that drop off would be. And the stats don't coincide, so it just kind of feels disjointed there. It's probably one of the biggest things I'd want to see them look at fixing. Amori Cora, I remember him with the Giants, like first years earlier in the series. Feels so long ago. Noble Meyer retires. It took him like 6 years to finally make it official. Yeah, he was really steady with us, and then just suddenly leaves and isn't the same guy anymore. Yeah, his FIPs were better when he was with us. Kenny Norris has retired, man. one of the biggest, like, not 1 year wonder, because clearly he played more than 1 year, but just like a flash in the pan guy who showed potential and then just as quickly regressed and was gone. I mean, that's no major league playing time since 2033. He ends up only making 207 career appearances. But man, when he was on, the strikeouts were electric. He was so fun to pitch with. I thought he'd end up being a long-term guy. But relievers are hard to predict. All right, Chet Sparbory retired. He ends up, you know, carving out a decent little career for a role player. Maybe had a couple years where he was decent starting, but, you know, he was bad, actually. We're already so far into the future, they've signed another shortstop long-term. The second since Hank Holder's regression. Theodore Roberts is still a 99 at age 33. 9 years of experience. Man, he's been tearing it up in Philly. He's one of the best players I ever drafted, as it turns out. Good to beat the Mets one more time and go to the NLCS, but then get knocked out in Game 7. And the Brewers beat the Athletics for the World Series. Oh, that's not Hank Holder. Close, though. Joe Brown has retired. He ends up with 226 career home runs, played in over 1,500 games. His career averages are very solid. You know, good average to above average starting first baseman. Not a guy who's going to rack up a lot of accolades, but a good player. And we'll definitely see him again down the road in Super Mega Baseball. Johnny Grieve has now retired. We went over his numbers earlier. He closed his career a couple seasons there in Tampa. Good career for him. We'll see if my next number 1 pick can actually have the success we're looking for with us. Been 2 years now of, I traded away ours last year with the Cardinals, and then Johnny Grieve, I just decided, it was time to move on. Termarr Johnson came up with Pittsburgh. I traded for him, and wow, that 2032 was incredible. Then he was good. Then he dropped off. Then he went back to Pittsburgh. Couldn't find that form. Career's over. Augustin Ramirez. I had given up. I didn't think there was a chance he was succeeding. And then he ends up hitting 188 career homers, plays in nearly 1,500 games, made a bunch of all-star teams there with Toronto, won a Silver Slugger and a Gold Glove. So, maybe I gave up a little too early, or maybe he just had to move on to be successful. Johnny Rowley was drafted in that first draft as well. I remember so many players from that first class. Don't know why he was traded to St. Louis. 1,900 career hits, 207 career homers. It feels like for players drafted here in the series that have to develop and earn their way there, that, 400 homers is like the 500. And like 200 is like 400. Here are Paul Skeen's numbers, by the way. 165 victories, 2693 strikeouts. Kind of a good test to see if he makes it to the Hall of Fame here. Because again, I think on average it's 1 per year, and there are many seasons where no one gets in. And only one here is Yordan Alvarez. And we have gone 500 and finally not made it to the postseason whatsoever. Braves win the World Series this year. Gary Brady has retired. Didn't know much about him until we had to trade for him. Looks like after his time in Miami, he went to Minnesota, hit that regression hard, played 15 years, 262 home runs, over 2,000 hits. PJ Morlando retires. He left us, went to Detroit, Colorado for a couple, New York for a few. And really, you look at his averages and his slugging, and just a steady guy the whole way. 11 years of being a solid, probably fan favorite role player. Thomas White retired. I didn't think it was ever going to get better for him. He does give up 234 career home runs, which is about as many as some of the best hitters in this series ended up hitting. So I think that's an interesting footnote. But I guess he did carve out some successful years, had a good run here, a good 4-year stretch. Not bad. Just retire, Hank. Come on, man. Cubs win the World Series here in 2046. Darrell Ingram has retired at age 38. 483 career homers. We followed his career, brought him in toward the end, and he made a lot of money and won a ring with us and won a bunch of awards. Great career. Be nice if Hank Holder retired in the same season as him, as those two have been tied together in this series for so long. Brock Outlaw retired. He was in my last draft class, so I just recognized the name. He played 1 year. Wasn't a bad year either. Why didn't he get another one? Darrell Ingram is a Hall of Famer. As a Marlin, too. I wasn't sure if I would get the trophy because he wasn't on our team anymore. I knew I wanted to get this trophy. That's cool, though, because he was a free agent, yet he gets inducted as a Marlin and not a Red. Never forget that. I must have missed Hank Holder retiring because he's not in the player pool at all anymore, which means that it appears Hank Holder failed to make the Hall of Fame. It's so hard to get in. But now I want to know how many home runs Theodore Roberts ends up with, because his numbers are on another level. He's still in 92. You know, ever since I played the Xbox 360 back in the day, I've been into achievements and trophies and games that I'm enjoying, so it's kind of funny that the only reason I might win that or get that trophy in this game is because of Darrell Ingram and not Hank Holder. But as a true trophy hunter, I'll take it. Red Sox beat the Dodgers. Man, the Dodgers just lose every World Series now. Brings a tear to your eye. Brian Ariano just retired. Great closer. Where'd he go after with us? That's right, Chicago. You know, he just put up like 6 great years there between the Cubs and the White Sox. 377 career saves. That's a very valuable closer who made a bunch of all-star games. How does a closer win all-star MVP? How do you do that? Well, I was going to be done there, but I thought of a bunch more players whose numbers I still needed to go over. I had to start up another recording to end this video. So here is Doug Butcher, who became one of my favorite players that I drafted. The whole story of him, projected to be the #1 pick, and then slid all the way to us in like the, I don't know if it was like 18 or 20, just like so far down that you wouldn't expect him to be there. And sure enough, he is. Injury prone as can be. Missed a lot of 2030. Missed his entire, first year of minor league baseball, a lot of it anyway. But then stabilized and became our everyday DH. And what an incredible DH he was. He would go on to play a good bit of defense, as for a lot of time he was like the higher rated left fielder. So once I stopped controlling everything, he did have to play some D. But he's going to end his career with 337 stolen bases. That was one of his big strengths. 265 homers, 52 triples, and almost 2,000 hits. And he made it to a ton of all-star games and won 2 Silver Sluggers. Andrés Ruiz played 12 years of Major League Ball after being the #2 pick of the entire series. So he didn't have like a great overall career with us. It was very up and down, and then he'd go on to Pittsburgh, where he would have the best years of his career, and then he'd bounce around a little bit, go to Kansas City. 140 career home runs, just over 1,000 hits. Kind of an average outfielder. I think his overall was pretty low, and that led to him not being able to reach his full potential. Jorge Vizcaíno played 11 years with that sub 90 mile per hour fastball. He only played 1 season outside of Miami, and that was with the White Sox. You know, if there's anybody who should be able to play more than 10 years, it's a guy who is at like no risk of blowing out his arm with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. He should have been able to play into his late 30s. The regression needs to be fixed, man, so Jorge Vizcaíno can be out there like Jamie Moyer. Romeo Stevenson played 11 years. Following his time in Miami, he finished things out in St. Louis, playing in 2 cities, and his ratings regressed, but I don't think his on-field play, you know, I guess the play did regress to an extent, but not too harsh. So he's going to end up with 1,300 plus career strikeouts, 118 victories. Solid career with 1 All-Star appearance. I have a list of players I want to get through before I'm done recording. This is the player right here with the absolute most staying power I've seen. Emilio De Jesus, we all know, was the #1 pick who went to the Rockies back in 2029. Who wouldn't know that? 17 years of MLB service, and he's still an 86. So there's probably a couple more years, but he has over 600 career home runs. I don't know what allowed him to stick around for so long, but that is amazing. Has anybody ever won a dozen Silver Sluggers and 5 MVPs? He is in GOAT territory. This is going to be the worst season that I've simmed so far, as we are actually going to lose 90 plus games. And the Angels now win the World Series against the Cubs. Juan Villa has now retired, and he was one of my later relief pitcher pickups, 257 career saves. But I think there were a couple more years he could have been used as a closer. He could have cleared 300. But sub-3 ERA, 611 strikeouts. Definitely a very good closer. Edgar Santana, we knew him as a big name in this series. He played 16 years and had 324 home runs, and is a rare player. This is not common. He only played with 1 team. That's actually very cool. Oh yeah, don't forget, Jorge Vizcaíno won a Cy Young. That's a pretty good legacy. And somehow no Hall of Famers, not even Edgar Santana. And he was like a 9-time All-Star with 1 team. Emilio De Jesus, man, he just keeps on going. 78 overall and still one of the best home run hitters. He might hit 700 in his career. What are you doing right now, Kane? You should be ending the series. I don't wanna. I'm hitting home runs now with Emilio De Jesus. I'm actually getting on a roll, too. I'm cooking. I think after all this time, I'm starting to get the timing down on the home run derby slow pitches. I'm starting to pull them. And this pitcher is throwing nothing but heat right now. He is throwing the most consistent home run derby pitches I have ever seen. Not sure exactly how many I need, but I'm hoping we can move on to the next round with a guy who was never even a Marlin in this series at any point. And we missed the cut. Come on, man. 14 homers didn't make us advance. Maybe I'll win one of these next year. Padres win the World Series this season. Nelson Iden has retired. One of many prospects I ended up trading away. He was mainly an elite defender, not much of a hitter. His career stats kind of reflect that. No accolades in 10 years. Miguel Carrara, 13 years, 106 saves, 55 wins coming out of the bullpen, 828 career strikeouts. Pretty good career for him. Looks like he left and then ended up coming back to Miami to finish out his career. That's cool. Buster Dill. That name might stick with me for longer than is ever necessary. Like, that's not a name you forget. Lucas Johnson. He was a prospect with really good power. Think like the Nolan Gorman archetype. Not much in terms of average or defense, just straight power. 8 career home runs. Sometimes these guys really don't pan out. Mustafa Jones was a pick of mine, and he did not end up carving out much of a major league career at all. I don't know why he only played 20 career games. And those years look good enough to build upon. I really don't know what happened here. J.J. Kohler, I drafted him, and he never played for us. He went on to be a pretty solid reliever, too. He could have been with us, you know, in 2036, putting up those kinds of numbers. He was actually really good. He didn't have a bad year in his entire career. I'm mad. The Marlins might be back, everybody. We actually made it to the postseason this year. Got knocked out by the Reds. As the Padres, man, what have they done? I bet there's not a single player on that team that I recognize. That is absolutely correct. But there is a reliever named Joe Brown. Paul Byrne retired. And he retires as a White Sox player, apparently. Okay, his first year was there. He's still wearing the hat. We traded for him. And he had, you know, some good years and then moved on and was a very good catcher. Just not a long-term guy with us. We saw William Blanco with the Nationals a bunch. And he would end up going to Baltimore, go back to Washington to finish his career. I do like seeing that. You know, his last season is where he played his best ball. Bunch of accolades for him. And I think like the same amount of home runs as Hank Holder, 292. Charlie Green was one of my final picks, I know, at second base. But he didn't end up really doing a ton in his career. Huey Costa. So he was another player I traded away to the White Sox. Didn't seem like he was going to put together much of a career. But he ended up putting in some really good time with the Guardians and the White Sox. And he had 204 career home runs. Played in 1,500 career games. So he ended up being very successful. Brooks Matsui. We saw his whole career arc basically in this video, from a fast riser, like Rookie of the Year finalist. Ended up playing a bunch of years with the Marlins, went to Minnesota, Pittsburgh, finished up with the Mets. Made 2 All-Star games that were separated by 7 years. And put in, you know, 1,600 career strikeouts. Nice little career. All right, we're going to knock out more of this list now. We got Edgar Batista's playing days done after 14 seasons. Obviously a player I held on to, did not want to trade. But then the Marlins didn't end up really keeping him around, and he'd play his best ball with the Dodgers. Guys, I set everything up for you, and you screwed it up. So Batista won a bunch of awards, 4 Silver Sluggers. He would hit 317 home runs. I'm trying to see who ends up being the highest home run hitter that I drafted in this series. I think I know who it is, but Batista hits more than Hank Holder at the end of the day. I believe Israel Cordova is going to be done at 67 overall. I don't see him getting more playtime. 169 wins. Very good. 1,933 strikeouts. You could never catch like Nolan Ryan's strikeout record here in the show, given the regression. Just not possible. Maybe in Road to the Show. Really good career for him. He went to Texas after his first handful of seasons with us. Had some really good-looking years there. This might be it for Theodore Roberts now as a 69 overall. And kind of like Emilio De Jesus, he shows more staying power than most. And he's 40 years old. 386 home runs. I believe that is the most homers of anybody I've drafted in the franchise, which I would have never imagined. 4 Silver Sluggers, a batting title, and a home run champion. Man, what a career for Teddy Roberts. And his entire legacy is basically stuffed into one video. Mackenzie McDermott was another a potential prospect I never wanted to trade away, and he'd play his entire 12-year career with the Marlins, winning 105 games, being a solid pitcher, think he might have had a couple really good years, but not an elite guy, and never won an accolade. Emilio De Jesus is now a 69 overall, and I've never seen a player here with 20 years of service, and he still hit 20 homers, 720. It's possible to fight off regression, but I don't know how you do it quite this well. This is amazing. We're talking about one of the great baseball players of all time here with this type of a legacy. This would be the third most home runs of all time. He passed Babe Ruth this year. And I kind of thought that was the type of experience we'd get here with Hank Holder. We didn't come close. He was all the way regressed out of playing serious baseball at age 30. De Jesus is playing to age 40. We just simmed a Marlins World Series. They swept the Orioles. So indeed, Emilio De Jesus' playing days are over. He did not play in 2051, and he never truly had the full regression as a player. The ratings go down, the production never came with it. That is amazing. Hey, the A's finally beat the Rockies in the World Series. There you go. Hey, we actually had a Hall of Fame pitcher. Fernando Almanza cleared 200 wins. I don't know who he was in this series, but that's cool to see that milestone get broken. And there we go. Emilio De Jesus inducted into the Hall of Fame with 720 home runs, 2,006 runs batted in. Actually had 2 players inducted this year. That's what I was waiting for, though. I can't believe how many years he ended up playing. To get close to the home run record is unbelievable without any user interference. And that is where I look to end our journey here with the Miami Marlins franchise. We cannot see any leaderboards here for these records, just the current holders there. But that was an absolutely incredible series. And I think it sets a very high bar for future franchises I explore down the road. And there's a very good chance that my next one is with the Minnesota Twins. I am a Twins fan, and it's been tough these last couple seasons, especially. The team's going through a rebuild right now, and I think I need to do a Twins franchise this next year. I think that'd be a really good team for MLB 26 and wanting to go back to the American League. So I think that's very likely at this point. But man, thank you all for supporting another series, another full franchise. I think I have found ways to keep making these series better. I really like how I've gone about the last years and last episodes in this franchise, giving you some of those one season videos. And I think this, in terms of a long-term sim, was an improvement off of some of the others. And I know we had some satisfying stuff in here with that Game 7 and everything. So thank you so much for supporting the content and this series. So many of you supporting into, these core football months where I typically see a big fall off on these series. But more than ever, you guys have supported this franchise incredibly. Thank you so much, allowing me to do this full time and bring you these kinds of experiences. It's time for me to take my break now from MLB The Show and come back next year. What a great time I had with this team. This was a special one. Leave any final thoughts on the franchise down below in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you all again down the road in my next franchise. Thank you again, and thank you for enjoying the Miami Marlins franchise. Take care.